Okay, we're on our next step of hollow construction. I've put the bottom piece of material up on top of a cotter pin again. I've fluxed it, and then I ended up using medium solder. So for the entire piece I have hard solder, which is melting at 1425 degrees, and then this is medium, which is melting at 1390, which is less, obviously, so the hard solder will stay. I'm going to use a number 1 tip on this. This is actually a really small hollow construction, but a number 1 will be better. And I previously had a 0 tip, so you can see the different sizes there. If a extremely loud motorcycle goes by, I apologize ahead of time. I'm soldering outside. So, got my flame started. I'm going to start to preheat. And you can see that the flux is kind of boiling off. It's a little bit gnarly. Or really gnarly. So this is kind of one of the only things about fluoride-free solder is it does seem to bubble quite a bit more, which isn't the end of the world, but you do have to get rid of all that before you can solder anything. So, I'm making sure it's nice and flat. Accidentally got it hot enough that it was already getting ready to solder, so just gotta make sure that it's all on the bottom sheet. Soldering, there you can see that kind of nice silver line. This side already started to solder a little bit whenever I heated it, so I think while I'm here, just because it's nice and hot and that solder appears to be moving pretty well, I'm going to just get a couple more pieces over here because it doesn't appear that the very end of it soldered as nicely as I would like. I'm just going to kind of put that right on the end there. Again, you can see how that heat can really reflect on that cotter pin. If you have to push something down, which you might, you can always kind of pull it off the cotter pin, put it back down. Looks like the very tip of this one might have had just like a little bit of a bend in it, and that might be something I have to fix afterwards. And that looks good. Okay, so we're almost there. I am going to check the edges as closely as I can to make sure that there's a solder line there. Every once in a while when you're filing, you might see something that comes up or a little pit that comes up that you'll fill with medium. And then I'm going to file. So because I used my saw to cut pretty close to the edge, I can just go straight to a file. I don't need a belt sander or anything. And so I'm going to use this aggressive crosscut file. And remember that it works on the push. I often change directions just in case if I'm pushing a little bit harder on one side. Just keeps it consistent. And so I am really at the same plane. So I'll kind of ease off on that. And I switched over to my single cut file so that it would be nice and clean. I can switch to a sanding stick. Get some sandpaper now. And I'm going backwards a little bit because I've got a couple scratches. So now I'm where I'm supposed to be, starting at my 220. If there's any solder, I'm getting rid of it. Getting rid of any scratches. And then that is just looking great. So now you really can't see anything because there's no contrast, but you shouldn't see even like a little black line or anything from the solder. So then I'm gonna go and clean up all the sides so that they end up looking like that. So, ooh, it's looking good. So I'm still cleaning up. And on the inside, this one's a little bit tricky because it does have that V shape. So I'm switching between the safe edge file and a half round. I'm trying to keep my file really nice and level. This is where I wish I was left-handed. Actually, I wish I had both hands. Get all these angles. But you can see that we're at that point. All the sides are nice and cleaned up. So I'll just keep filing. I did end up putting a vent hole here, and I'll probably continue that hole to end up being either like a necklace or something, or maybe a loop could go through here and it could be a keychain. I'm not sure yet. Usually you'd have that design all figured out. But there it is. And you can see my mokume gane stripes on this side. And then I'll eventually patinate this probably where it's all liver of sulfur and dark. And then the stripes will be coming out in nickel silver. Okay, we did it. Hollow construction.